Hello lovely people, how you doing? Nice to see you. My name's Ethan Atkinson and welcome to my channel. Today, tiny pretty things. Oh my god. To say I've been obsessed with it is an understatement to the max. As some of you will know, I'm a professional dancer, so the moment I saw this show I was like, oh, I have to watch it. This is going to be like a glimpse into my childhood and my training and all the things I had to endure as a youth. A little bit of backstory. I trained in a professional dance school from the age of 11 to the age of 21. Tiny Pretty Things is taking place at around 16, 17 years old. That's where most of our characters are. Crazy time. You've got teenage drama. You've got dance school drama, which there's always a lot of. Getting solos, who's seeing who, life plus dance life. Like there's so much stuff because our careers start so early, so we just need to get in and get going. You need to be the best you can the moment you finish your training, which is why so many of the characters are so intensely passionate about getting what they want. I'm not going to focus too much on the plot, so don't worry too much about the spoilers. I'm more going to focus on what I as a dancer found was realistic or really not that accurate, and genuinely how it made me feel and whether I felt like it was an accurate representation of my time as a dancer in training. Stick around to the end of the video and I'm going to tell you my recommended YouTuber of the month. Being 2021, way, I'm going to try and do this once a month. So if you like it, please let me know in the comments down below. But let's get into my thoughts, feelings, opinions now. Right, first things first. Why are they nude all the time? Like, sometimes I was like, yes, here for it. Like, the drama is added to by them just being like naked all the time, but they are meant to be like 16, 17-year-olds, which is a really uncomfortable point in your life. Also, I find with dancers, yes, we are encouraged to be healthy and active and work out, and we do have to literally like expose ourselves sometimes for the work and the art that we partake in, but as a result, it can actually cause a lot of us to be really self-conscious. So to see 16, 17-year-olds just stripping off nude days after they've met each other, in the case of Nevaeh at the pool party in episode 1, I didn't think that was that accurate. Second con, Shane absolutely would be the number one. There is a moment where he does about 6 pirouettes, just bangs them out. Are you mad? Are you seeing anyone else do that many turns? No, the teachers would be loving him. I did enjoy the show though, I really loved the show. Like, I've been obsessing about these characters and the stories and even the actors from the get-go. The moment I turned on episode 1, I was hooked, I just loved it. Dance drama is the best kind of drama. When I was training, the amount of drama that would happen about who was doing whose piece, what choreographer was in, who got what part, who's dancing which bit, even who's in the front line or who's in the centre, that would be a thing, that would be a major deal. I even had numbers where we'd get stressed about who was doing which part of the number, because supposedly that meant you were the choreographer's favourite or whatever. It didn't. All it meant was you were the one that was doing it well. Doesn't matter how they felt about you. Well, sometimes it did. The kind of drama you experience when you're training, because you are surrounded by lots of passionate, artistic, creative people, a lot of young people going through changes in their bodies and hormones and stuff, so we are dialed up to a 10, plus we're big characters a lot of the time as well. It's a boiling pot of some really brilliant drama if you're into that sort of thing, and the show does capture that really, really well. Another great thing for me about the show was Shane's character, played by Brennan Clost. The character initially appears to be very, very cliched, overly sexual, young, flamboyant teen with blonde hair, but he goes on to develop into this character that's just looking for love and affection and closeness. I know a lot of people just looked at him initially and goes, why is another gay character just presented in this like flamboyant, like they dress like a crazy person way? A bit like Kurt from Glee. But I felt he, even just in the short space of time that we had of 10 episodes, he became a lot more nuanced. I saw something of myself in Shane, so I have a personal attachment to that character. I know I have been told to dance more manly in my time in training, and not so much as professional, because it's just something that's expected, but it's a really
hard grey area that I think the dance world is still dealing with, and I think Shane's character showed the struggles and the complications of being told that and how you're meant to manage that feeling and present a more manly dancer. It's really strange.
But I did really like his character's journey and his arc. The cast are impeccable dancers. They all have these really interesting careers coming from different places. It feels like half of them did American in Paris. To name a few, you've got my boy Brennan, who trained at Juilliard, and he was also on The Next Step, so you might recognise him if you watch that. Barton, who plays Oren, was in An American in Paris. He's also a beautiful dancer. If you've caught any of his stuff on the show and stuff he's doing outside of the show. Daniela Norman, who plays June, the British character on the show. Woohoo, let's go. She's an English National Ballet girl. She also appears in the Cats film, if you're watching closely enough, and another American in Paris alumni, but she was in the West End show. Another American in Paris girl was Tori, who plays Delia, and Kylie Jefferson also appears in another show on Netflix at the moment called The Hot Chocolate Nutcracker, if you want to go look that up. She trained at the Debbie Allen Dance Academy, and she also was part of Complexion's ballet company, where she got injured, and without that injury, I don't know if she would have had the time off to audition for the show, which I think is really interesting. Everything happens for a reason. Another really important thing was the male eating disorders moments, I should say, with Oren. Minor spoiler there. But in the ballet world, I think a lot of people are conscious of their figure and how much weight they have and don't have, and you are rewarded for it. All dance well, but ballet is exceptionally so, because there's something about thinness that art form and the people that create it seem to idolise or appreciate, or for whatever reason. Eating disorders are usually written into TV shows and films through female characters. As we all know, in the real world, eating disorders affect people of all genders, and I know I've suffered with some issues of how I perceive my body and how much I'm eating, so it's so nice to see that sort of thing shown in another way, and I thought it was done in a really interesting way, because I've had friends that have done exactly what Oren does, which they document everything they eat, and it's a really hard thing to watch a friend go through. I appreciate seeing it on the show, definitely. Even just having a black girl be the central character that introduces us to this world is major. So major. The ballet world is still quite far behind on their representation in regards to non-white performers. Again, I'm going to recommend Hot Chocolate Nutcracker on Netflix, because it really discusses this in a much better way than I'm going to, and I don't think it's my place to necessarily discuss. I want to see more of that, and I want to see more development on that experience as a black dancer, and it's something Kylie Jefferson will be able to portray quite well, I think. If you're following Bet's storyline, you might be questioning why she's performing on an injury, and I was sat there watching it like, well, I would never do that. And then I was thinking, hang on, it's part of the business, we do get injured, and it's about judging whether that injury is a manageable one or if it's so big that you have to take yourself out. When you're training, because it is just about like getting seen by different creative directors or agents or casting people for whatever thing, you need to be on the stage to do that. But once you're in a company and you're in a show, obviously you've got to be performing to make the money. You're not just going to get paid without doing anything, but there are people there whose job is to fill in for you if you are injured. I pulled the muscles in my ribs and I carried on because I just had to. And because I'd worked so hard, it feels like you're letting yourself down if you take the day off. And I was really surprised to find myself thinking like, well, I wouldn't do that. And I absolutely did do that. It's a really bizarre thing to admit to, and we shouldn't, but we do. Obviously, when the injury gets to a point, you have to take the time off, like Bet has to in the show. If we could, I think we'd all take more time off for the sake of our health. But we don't, and I don't know why. That's that. The bar situation depends on, I think, the kind of people you've got in your class. I don't know why. That's just what happens. Because you've got your tryhards at the front, and if you want to hide a bit at the back, or you don't want to get picked on, but teachers do pick up on this and purposely go and stand by some people they want to just correct. Now for some things that I'd like to see in season 2 that has to happen. Number 1 is definitely less predatory adults, because I feel like every adult in this show, bar the ballet master and his husband, are predators, and they like literally like feast off the students, and it just feels really wrong. One interesting thing about being at the age they're at when you're training is you also have to do all your academics. The academics are barely featured on the show. I really want to see more of that stress, because that is a really hard thing to juggle, because you've got to remember all your choreography and all that, and you've got to fit in all your dance stuff, but on top of that you've got to do whatever exams you've got to do, you've got to remember your maths, your biology, your French, like all these things you don't necessarily want to study because you're already studying your passion and your drive. I think that is a really interesting way the series could go. Something I would like to see is some of the dancers questioning whether they really want to be dancers. It is something that happens to a lot of people. When you're training so intensely and you're training the thing you love to do as your job, and you now don't have a hobby, you suddenly realise maybe you didn't love it so much, or actually you want it as your hobby, you don't want it as your income. It's a really hard thing to do, especially when you're being told by teachers you're not quite good enough, or you're not going to do this or that, like we do in those ballet scenes, which are, honest to God, quite accurate. Apart from when people are sitting on the floor, you would never ever sit on the floor in a ballet lesson with a strict ballet master, or any ballet master for that matter. But overall, I loved Tiny Pretty Things. Season 2 has to happen, and if I can get an audition for that, I will push Cassie Shaw off the top of that building again. Like, don't stop me, no one get in my way, because you're going off that building with her. Thanks for watching my Tiny Pretty review. My recommended YouTuber of the month is Brennan, Clost, obviously. With it being the Tiny Pretty review, it had to be a Tiny Pretty cast member. He's got some amazing vlogs following the behind the scenes antics that the cast get up to that are really nice to watch. Leave a comment down below letting me know what you want to see in Tiny Pretty Things Season 2. A thumbs up would be much appreciated. And just remember, you can do anything you set your mind to. See ya!